All right, these are 4 tips that help me improve my sleep. So I noticed that on the days when I get good sleep, everything feels pretty easy. Like all the problems in life feel pretty manageable. My emotions are pretty flat and static. But on the days when I get bad sleep, or especially if I get bad sleep multiple nights in a row, it usually ends up being really bad and have like a really bad day, or like something happens that might be small, but then it'll kind of like make me spiral, or something like that. At least I notice it more often. So the first thing is going to be sleeping at a consistent bedtime. So if you sleep, like if you set a very consistent bedtime, most people set a consistent wake time, right? But the problem with that is that you might end up sleeping too late and then waking too early, so you're just tired the whole day. And yeah, you have a consistent wake time, but if you don't have a consistent bedtime, you're just consistently getting bad sleep. So I think it makes a lot more sense if you're gonna set an alarm to set an alarm for the nighttime, right? So if you have to wake up at 7 and you know that you sleep for 8 hours, then you could set an alarm for 11 p.m. And then that way you'll wake up at 7 and you'll feel rested, right? So instead of 7, you do it at 11. The second thing is going to be to do with what you do in the morning. So I've noticed that when you take like specific actions in the morning, it'll affect your basically like how do you, like, I guess, amped, right? You can also measure it through your heart rate, but it'll kind of gauge your stress levels for the rest of the day. And what you want is high stress in the morning and then low stress in the evening before you're gonna go to sleep. So there's a few things you can do to kind of modulate this, right? The first thing is going to be eating early. So if you wake up and start eating within like 2 hours, that's good. And if you can finish all your eating before like 6 hours before you go to sleep, that'll be helpful. And you can digest and your body has enough time to kind of process all that food before you sleep. And then the second thing is exercising in the morning, because if you exercise in the morning, that's kind of spiking your stress levels and then it'll kind of like slowly decrease. You can see if you have one of these like trackers or whatever, you can see that. And another thing is cold exposure. So if you do like taking cold showers, I know it takes like a little bit of getting used to. I remember like when I first started, I would have to listen to like hype music to get in the cold shower. But if you do it for a minute, it's not too bad. Also depends on where you're living too, so that could be a cause. But yeah, that helps because it kind of spikes your stress levels too, and then it'll help you sleep later because you're kind of like you basically want to have a cortisol spike in the morning and then less in the rest of the day. So the third thing is going to be to do with what you do before you go to sleep. So there's 2 main things that I noticed that are really helpful. So the main thing is going to be also to do with body temperature, core body temperature, and then what you avoid is the second thing. So body temperature, you can raise it by, you can lower it, which is what you want before you go to sleep. You can lower it by exposing yourself to heat. So if you take a bath or a shower, that'll lower your body temperature, your internal body temperature, and then you can sleep easier because your body wants to be at a certain temperature before it sleeps. And the second thing is kind of like the inverse of what I just talked about for your morning routine stuff. So basically, if you have anything that increases your stress levels throughout the day, you want to kind of front load that. And anything that like makes you more relaxed, you want to put that like closer to bedtime. So you're kind of like easing into things. You'd kind of think of it like you wouldn't go sprint like a marathon, or not sprint a marathon, sprint up a hill, run a marathon right before you're trying to go to sleep, right? So it's the same thing. It's just you think about that on like the whole day kind of thing. So you put all the activities that will amp you up, will make you more stressed to the beginning of the day, right? And then that's pretty much everything. If you get all those, I feel like you'd be pretty set. But the fourth one is just while you're asleep, like what you can do. So there's a few like things that I think are really helpful. So you can kind of think of going to sleep as getting into like a sensory deprivation unit. That's how I think about it. So I have earplugs and a face mask and like one of those mouth tape things. So it's like, I don't know, I see myself as just like, going into a sensory deprivation unit, like, in the superhero movies or whatever. When like Captain America, exactly. So like he goes in the thing and he comes out jacked. That's what you're doing every night. But you just want to be like pretty much like gone to the world, and then you wake up. So yeah, that's pretty helpful. Just a caution there, if you do end up getting used to eye masks and earplugs and stuff, it'll make your sleep quality better. But then if you don't have them, so like if you're somewhere random and you forgot to bring it, it'll feel like everything's really loud or really bright. So just, I think it's worth it, but just something to be aware of. But yeah, hope you guys found that valuable. And yeah, I will catch you later. Have a good one. Peace.